Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reflective Rebels podcast. I am sat in my garden today, my happy place. I am looking over the wildlife pond that we put in, and there is pure chaos and life all around, and it's just glorious to be sat here to talk to you. So this one's going to be a bit different. I was doing some Googling around, like, what issues are business owners facing, and I tried using Claude to do some research, and in the end I thought this is ridiculous. And what I did is I stuck a message in the Reflective Rebels collective WhatsApp group, and I just asked people, like, what are you struggling with? I'm thinking of doing a podcast episode. It sort of might be like a listeners' questions type thing, and I've got loads of questions, so there's a few episodes like this to come if this one comes together okay. And what happened was Abigail asked the question, why the fuck is it so lonely? Why is building a business so fucking lonely? And that one seemed to resonate with the group, so I went with that one as the first experiment to try something different. So what I'm going to do is actually what Abigail did for us is she sent me a load of voice notes while she was walking her dog. I thought I'd just weave in some of Abigail's voice notes and then reflect on those a bit, and then sort of just see another experiment, really see what comes out of that type of approach to putting this together. So I would really love your feedback on this one. If you do listen, please do get in touch. So let's go. Let's hear Abigail's first thoughts from her dog walk.
I think from like the outside, like you're in a business and everyone's like, oh, you've got like full freedom, you can work when you want, do what you want. But actually, like, you can't. And even if you're surrounded by a team, like, I have the biggest support network of like 300 travel agents, but pride comes into it as well. Like, I'm not going to go to them and go, oh my God, I was lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking about what post I'm going to like put on, or what marketing, or cash flow, or my website's not getting as many views. Like, you're not going to go to them because, oh, you don't want to seem like you're not doing well enough, or you don't want to find someone else in your industry. Like, look at HR, how many HR agents are there? But everyone sees each other as competition. And so it's lonely because you're either competing against someone, trying to save face, and until you find that group of people that you can open up to, or be honest to, or have a laugh with, like, there's no one there. And it looks great on the outside, but Jesus, it's fucking shite from the inside.
Wow, I think that was really brave and open of Abigail to just share her thoughts like that. And she has given me permission to use these voice notes, by the way, before we sort of start to explore these. But let's reflect on Abigail's question. Why does it feel so lonely running a business? I thought what she said resonated loads. I've definitely felt that, and you probably have too at different points, that the sort of split between what we feel like it needs to look like from the outside in, and what it feels like from the inside out. And unless you've had this pressure of knowing that you've got to find the work every month to pay your own bills, your own wages, your own staff if you've got them, I think it's hard to grasp what that's like. And I think people do grasp onto the freedom part. You know, I finished work early today, I had to go to an appointment with my daughter. I left the office at 2 o'clock, but it doesn't mean that at 2 a.m, like Abigail says, we're not going to be thinking about the marketing, about the sales, about the cash flow. So we're free to an extent. We've got some flexibility, perhaps, but not necessarily freedom if we're stuck in those kind of traps. The other thing that I thought was really interesting was the idea of pride, and that we could be almost surrounding each other all of these people, all of these humans thinking and feeling similar things and having similar experiences on the inside. But some sort of false sense of pride, I think, is holding us back from just opening up. Abigail's right. When you find the right group of people, that does become easier. But I suppose the flip side of that is then we're all just wandering around pretending. We're all just wandering around putting on the mask, which I think is why We're Done Pretending is the first line of the Reflective Rebels manifesto. And that kind of my statement of what I believe the world needs is that it's all bullshit and we've got to stop behaving like that. We can rewrite these rules. They're the rules that we're making up in our own heads, in our own minds, and we don't have to play that game if we don't want to. There are people out there who are going to view us as competition, but we can choose to think differently about it. We can choose to let that go. We can choose to collaborate over competition. We can choose to be more open, more honest, more vulnerable, more real with each other, and see what happens as a result of behaving in that way, rather than from this sense of being guarded and competing and winners and losers and all that bullshit kind of sales, sort of 80s really outdated mentality about what being a business is about. Anyway, let's hear what Abigail voice noted next.
Leadership, like management, like there's no how to, them like dummy books, them yellow books. There's no like how to be a leader or how to be a manager. But you're not going to share with your team like, oh, I'm not really sure how to do this. You're just going to wing it and make it look like you know what you're doing. And in reality, do we fucking know what we're doing?
Yikes, that's true, isn't it? So, for me, on a daily basis, I can swing between feeling supremely confident, knowledgeable and experienced and completely out of my depth within the space of 60 seconds. And that's not because, for Abigail or you listening or me, that we don't have expertise, we don't have knowledge, we don't have huge strengths. We know what we're doing. But the world is so complicated and it's moving so fast. And the expectations on us are so varied, huge, and we have more information than ever, literally at our fingertips. And now, for the last 12 months or so, trying to grapple with AI, which can make sense of it all for us. And in this context, it's inevitable and purely natural sometimes to not have a fucking clue what we're doing. And the loneliness aspect, to come back to Abigail's question, why the fuck is this so lonely? If you're in a leadership position and you believe that you can't open up, or if you believe that you as a leader have to have all the answers, then that can be extremely isolating, because either you are working your arse off to make sure you are super ooper duper prepared and have all the answers for every meeting, or you're masking all the time, pretending, faking constantly. I mean, it's exhausting. So the answer to this one is not to come across like incompetent fools, absolutely not, but to recognise from a human, vulnerable leadership perspective that it is absolutely okay not to have all the answers, and it's absolutely okay to admit to a team that you don't have all the answers. And it is not the job of a leader anymore, I don't believe, to be the person with all of the answers, because it's just impossible. It's impossible because the whole point of a team is that you're blending skills, experiences, knowledge. But it's also impossible because the rate of change is just so huge and fast that you would have to be superhuman to be able to keep up. So I think, for me on this one, it's the idea that in the right way, we have got to I think maybe pride comes back into it again, Abigail. Put our ego aside and be able to say, actually, it's okay if I don't have the answers, and it's okay for me to admit that. And that doesn't make me a bad person. Actually, it makes me a better person, and it's going to make me a better leader. And the outcome of that will be better for my team, not worse.
Just keeps coming now. You've opened up a can of worms. Clients. Like, I had one today that was a frigging ball ache. I had no one to go to about that. Like, just to vent. Like, running a business is hard and all the shit you have to deal with. Sometimes you just need a good vent, and you don't need someone to fix it, or you don't need someone to say anything. You just need to vent off all them issues.
I love this one. Yeah, clients. Ball ache clients. Well put, Abigail. I think the interesting thing for me in there is that you don't need someone to fix it. You just need someone to listen. And that's where having a coach or mentor can be absolute magic, because that really is the whole point. A coach isn't there to fix anything for you, but what they are there to do is to create a non-judgmental space where you can just vent your emotions, you can brain dump your thoughts. I think as humans, most of us, we process our thoughts in the action of speaking them out loud. So if we're sat frustrated with a client and all we're doing is going round and round in our own heads about it, that's the loneliness trap, because we just end up in a cycle. We ended up in a spiral in our own minds, and we sort of keep coming round and round and round. Whereas if you're able to verbalise that out through your mouth, the act of doing that can help clarify your thinking around it. So, yeah, the action here is get yourself a thinking partner. Get yourself either, if you've got a friend or family member who can play that role, who can listen. Most of us, with a friend or family member, we do jump to do the fixing thing because we want the person to feel better because we love them. But if you've got someone who genuinely has that skill in your life of just being able to listen and let you be heard, fabulous. And it's worth investing in. You know, yes, I'm sat here as a coach, but I also have my own mentor. I've worked with coaches before. That experience is completely invaluable, to be able to have someone who will sit there and fully, properly listen to you. It's absolutely magic. So yeah, next time you're pissed off, find someone who can help you process and deal with that effectively.
Like, you always have to, I feel, have like two versions of yourself. The version that's customer facing, out in the network, like, yeah, it's going really well. Because effectively everyone you meet at networking is potentially a client, or everyone you bump into or get in a conversation with or share on socials. So you've got to always be, well, maybe you don't have to be, but I feel like you have to have that version of client facing. You know what the fuck you're doing. You've got your shit under control. But anyway, that's it. No more voice notes. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. Probably gonna book on the co-working day. And yeah, see you soon.
I think Abigail's hit the nail on the head there with what she's saying about having two versions of ourselves. And I think if we go back to the original question, why the fuck is this so lonely? I think this is at the root of it. And I think, to me, when I've thought about my own loneliness and been on my own journey, really, of kind of thinking about my values really deeply and who I am and the work I want to do and how that's all going to fit together, I really thought deeply about this idea of whether, as humans, we're looking to fit in or we're looking to belong. So we're social creatures. We are designed, our brains are designed to want to be part of a group. And if we feel isolated from a group in any way, we've all had those experiences, whether it's at school or as adults, where we feel like we are being kept out of something. And it feels, if we're on the outside of that, deeply, deeply painful, because we're biologically wired to want to be part of that, to be social creatures. It's how we sort of survive. It's how we've evolved. But the trouble is, we can do one of two things. We can try to fit in, and that means we modify our own behaviour in order to be part of that group. And this is Abigail's two versions at play here. So just a simple thing, like when I think about myself, if I'm going to a networking event, if you've ever seen me at one, if not, you can imagine, I will be in the most colourful, gaudy, floral camp shirt you can ever imagine. And I've decided that I don't need to fit in. I don't need to be in a suit. I don't need to fit the typical professional view of the businessman. I can look feminine, camp, colourful, bold and brilliant because I've let go of trying to fit into those groups, and I've got comfortable with turning up of a version of me that is me, irrespective of the environment that I'm in. That obviously doesn't just play out in clothes, but we think about the language that we're using, the questions that we're asking, the things that we're willing to say, the way that we behave. You know, we're constantly trying to moderate our behaviour to fit in with those groups, and that can be absolutely exhausting if that's not the real you, if you're constantly putting on a mask, constantly performing. And that's where this second idea of belonging comes in, because the idea of belonging is that we find spaces and people and groups who we feel part of by being just who we are, and we're accepted into that space not because we fit in, but because who we are is just bloody wonderful. And I think that, to me, is the key to getting out of this loneliness trap, is that if you're able to let go of this need to fit in and recognise that you are doing that in different spaces, either in, you know, how you're showing up, what you're wearing, what you're talking about, whether you're following the same old scripts, what do you do, are you busy? You know, we're playing a role there. We're literally reading off ye olde business 101 script. If you're able to turn up and be totally you, then you will start to feel less alone, because then you will start to open up. And the magic of that is, you know, Abigail says everyone in that room is a potential client. Well, actually, that's complete bollocks, because certainly for me, if you don't want to work with me as who I am, as how I show up, with the same level of open-mindedness and compassion and search for joy, then you're not a potential client of mine, because one, you're not going to enjoy working with me, it's not going to work for you, but two, I'm not going to enjoy working with you. So I would let go of this idea that everyone is a potential client, and I would be thinking, no, there are people out there who I can add value to, change their world, send them on the best holiday ever, coach to achieve their wildest dreams, you know, solve their every business problem. But it's not everybody. It's the people that I can feel like I belong with, that I can feel like I can be me with, because that will bring you joy. That will be going to work and doing a job that you love, and that will be a business that doesn't feel lonely anymore. And I think that's what I'm trying to create through Reflective Rebels, through the work I'm doing one-to-one, and through the gatherings that I'm trying to create. It's about bringing people together who might not be like-minded, who might not think the same, who might be from all sorts of different walks of life, but who aren't putting sales first, but are valuing human connection and turning up as them and discovering the magic that can happen as a result of that. So, there we go. In summary, oh God, I'm just watching the bees while I try to work this out. The bees are landing on the flowers in front of me. I've got a crazy patch of wildflowers that I planted alongside the pond. Yeah, in summary, I'm rambling. You've switched off by now. In summary, the leadership thing, we don't have to have all the answers. Just admit you don't know. It's too complicated to know everything. The world is too fast. And you will have a better human connection with your team if you're able to open up in that way and work with them genuinely as partners. And this idea that we don't need to compete, we can collaborate. We don't need to fit in, we can belong. And we do that by putting down the masks, by being the one willing to step forward and say, I'm not going to play by those rules. I'm not going to follow that script. I'm going to do it my way. And what will happen is the people that are meant to be around you will be naturally attracted to that, because it will feel good and you will feel good and your life will be full of wildflowers and chirping birds. So on that note, this has been an experimental episode of the Reflective Rebels podcast. I really would love to hear what you think. You can either drop me a comment on the podcast wherever you're listening, and for a little independent podcast like mine, that is absolutely invaluable. Or you can drop me an email, ben@reflectiverebels.co.uk, and just, let me know your thoughts, your feedback. Until next time, I'm Ben, and this has been the Reflective Rebels podcast.